Okay, here's 6.8. Okay, I'm going to split the paper into 8 boxes, and we're going to start. Okay, here's the first problem. You need to evaluate. That's the directions. So it says the absolute value of -6. I have to find out what that equals. Now, absolute value means how far the number is from 0 on a number line, okay? We don't label it, okay. So if I go from -6 to 0, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places, okay? So the absolute value of -6 equals 6. It's how many spaces you count. It's just counting. Okay, next problem. The absolute value of 3. Now, if I go from 3 to 0, I go 1, 2, 3. But don't label it -3. You're just counting distance, okay? Absolute value is like measuring distance, okay? So if I'm measuring the distance from 3 to 0, it's 3 spaces. Think of every one of these tick marks as a mile. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 6 and 3. Now my next problem, the absolute value, and inside we have 2 minus 10. Okay, minus is plus negative. And then I need to figure out what 2 plus -10 is, okay? 2 plus -10 is -8. Now, I figure out what the absolute value of -8 is. So if I go from -8 to 0, how many spaces am I counting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the absolute value of -8 equals 8. Okay, next problem, the absolute value of -4 plus 7. Okay. So, -4 plus 7, I need to figure out what -4 plus 7 actually is. It's 3. And what's the absolute value of 3? Well, from 3 to 0 is 1, 2, 3. So 3 spaces. Okay, our next problem, we have -2, absolute value 4 minus 7 plus 12. Now there's no sign between the -2 and the absolute value, so I put a multiplication dot. Okay. So first I need to figure out what 4 minus 7 is. It's -3, but then -3 has to come out of its absolute value. So the distance from -3 to 0 is 3, so 1, 2, 3. So we have -2 times 3 plus 12. So I have times and plus. We need to times first. We always need to times before you add. So -2 times 3 is -6, and then plus 12. And then -6 plus 12 is 6. So the answer to that problem is 6. Okay, so I figure out what's in the absolute value. Then I find the absolute value, 3, and then take -2 times 3 plus 12. Okay, next problem, I've got 3, absolute value 2 minus 5 plus 13. So inside the absolute value, and put a times dot there, 2 minus 5 is -3. Then what's the absolute value of -3? Well, from -3 to 0, that's 3 places. So this here, okay, in the absolute value becomes 3. And then 3 times 3, and then plus 13. Then we have to do the times first. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 13. Then 9 plus 13 equals 22. Okay, that's the first part of the assignment. Now the second part. And here's the first problem on the next page. You have to solve the equation. That's your answer. That means solve for x. So I have the absolute value of x equals 2. Now if I'm solving absolute value equations, first I'm going to kind of make this dotted line here and make sure there's nothing outside the absolute value. There's not, so I go make a table. I write equals out twice. Now the inside of the absolute value has just x, so x and x. Then the absolute value is equal to 2. Now there's 2 possible places on a number line where you can be 2 away from 0. 0, 1, 2. I could be at 2, but I could also go the other way and be at negative 2. So those are your two answers, 2 and negative 2. Okay, next problem. Absolute value of x equals 10. So inside the absolute value we have x. Make the wall. There's nothing outside of the absolute value. And then to be 10 places from 0, I could be over at 10 for the first part, but I also could be at negative 10 for the second part. So x could be 10 or negative 10. Because if I put a 10, 10 is 10 places, but so is negative 10. Okay, next problem. The absolute value of x equals negative 7. So inside the absolute value we have x, but hold on a second here. You cannot be negative 7 places from 0. Okay, it's impossible. If you're equal to a negative with your absolute value, the correct answer is no solution. Because the absolute value cannot be equal to a negative. It's distance. You don't measure distance by negatives. Okay, next problem. Absolute value of x equals 5. Okay, so inside the absolute value of x, I can be at positive 5 or negative 5. Okay, and if it's equal to a negative, it's no solution. Okay, next page. I'm still solving the equations. The directions don't change. We have the absolute value x minus 8 equals 5. So now inside the absolute value, we don't have just x. We have x minus 8. So x minus 8, x minus 8. And to be 5 places from 0, we could be at positive 5 or negative 5. Now I need to solve for x. I have to get the x by itself. So I wall, dot circle, make the 8 plus negative. So it's negative 8, so I need to add 8 to get it to 0. So 1 dot x equals 13. Now divide by 1, and 13 is your first answer. Now the other answer is not negative 13, okay? You're going to see why. So 1 dot circle, make that a plus negative 8. So again, I add 8, but this time it's negative 5 plus 8. It's not 5 plus 8, it's negative 5 plus 8. So negative 5 plus 8, you can use your calculator, or you can go negative 5 forward 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 3. Okay, then I divide by 1, and 3 divided by 1 equals 3. Okay, so 13 and 3. Because 13 minus 8 is 5, which is 5 places from 0. And then 3 minus 8 is negative 5, but negative 5 is also 5 places from 0. Okay, next problem. We have the absolute value of 5x equals 20. So within the absolute value, we have the expression 5x. Remember, that means 5 times x. And you could be 20 or negative 20. So make the wall, circle. I just can go straight to dividing by 5. So 20 divided by 5 is 4, so it could be at 4 or negative 4. Divide by 5. Negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. Okay, so that one we did get a positive and a negative because all I had to do is divide, but when you add and subtract, they're not going to be the same. Okay, next problem. X minus 6 equals negative 18. Now, inside the absolute value, we have the expression x minus 6. Now, you can't be negative from 0, okay? So that's a no solution. I don't even go to the table if it's equal to a negative. Absolute value can't equal a negative because you don't measure distance by negatives. Nobody measures miles by negative miles. Okay, next problem. Absolute value of x plus 7 equals 8. So inside I've got the expression x plus 7. And that could equal 8 or negative 8. Okay. So 1 dot circle. I minus the 7 from the 8. So you have 1 dot x. 8 minus 7 is 1. Then you just divide by 1 and you get 1. So x is 1. There's your first answer. 1 plus 7 is 8. So the absolute value of 8 is 8. Okay, over here, 1 dot circle, subtract 7. Now that's not 8 minus 7, it's negative 8 minus 7. So it's like being at negative 8 on a number line, and minus 7 means going backwards. So it's going to be negative 15. Okay, then I divide by 1, and I've still got negative 15. Okay, so negative 15 and 1 are the two, because negative 15 plus 7 is negative 8, but negative 8 is 8 from 0. Okay, so those are your two answers. Okay, my next problem, we have the absolute value of 4x plus 1 equals 9. Okay, so the absolute value, inside I have the expression 4x plus 1. And the absolute value equals 9, so you can be at 9 or negative 9 to have an absolute value of 9. So dot, circle, you need to minus 1. So 4 times x equals 8. So 4 times what's 8? Well, how about I divide by 4 and figure it out? 8 divided by 4 equals 2. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Okay, then here, minus 1, minus 1. Now again, it's negative 9 minus 1. So if I'm at negative 9 and minus 1, I'm at negative 10. So I divide both sides by 4. Negative 10 divided by 4 is a decimal, and that's okay. It's negative 2.5. Those are your two answers. Because 4 times negative 2.5 is negative 10, plus 1 is negative 9, but the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. Okay, next problem. Absolute value of 3x minus 3 equals 9. So inside the absolute value we have 3x minus 3. Have an absolute value of 9. We could be at 9 or negative 9. So wall, dot, circle. Minus 3 means plus negative 3. So to get a negative 3 to 0, you need plus 3. So I got 3 times x. 9 plus 3 is 12. So 3 times what number is 12? Well, I'll divide by 3 and figure it out. That's 4. 3 times 4 is 12, minus 3 is 9, so bingo. Now I have to account for being equal to negative 9, so it's plus negative, so plus 3, plus 3. Negative 9 plus 3, if you're at negative 9, plus 3 means forward 3, I'd be at negative 6. 3 times what's negative 6? Well, I'll divide by 3 and find out. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Now 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, minus 3 is negative 9, which is the absolute value of that's 9. Okay, next problem. 6x plus 4 equals 16. So anytime I see absolute values, I need to make a table. So inside you got 6x plus 4, 6x plus 4. You could be equal to positive 16 or negative 16. So wall, dot, circle. So I minus 4, and that takes us to 12. So 6 times x equals 12. Then I divide by 6, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16, which matches the answer. Okay, same process over here, but now it's not 16 minus 4, it's negative 16 minus 4. Okay, then I divide by 6, and I get negative 3.3333, negative 3.3 repeating. Okay. Okay, our last problem, the absolute value of x minus 4 equals negative 8. So inside the absolute value we got x minus 4, but the absolute value is equal to a negative, which we can't do on the table because an absolute value can't equal a negative. You can't measure distance by negative, so that's no solution. Okay. And that is enough of me on this. Okay.